Today I'm making jalapeno poppers. I looked all over the internet for a recipe similar to the poppers that Arby's makes. I didn't find anything, so I put this together myself. We think they're excellent. I'm making a lot of these today to put up in the freezer, but I'll break this down into a one batch recipe for you. For one batch, you need about 2 dozen jalapenos. Cut the ends off, cut them in half, then remove the seeds. Be sure to wear rubber gloves for this. Years ago, I learned my lesson on that one. I didn't wear gloves and my hands burned for days. Now, the heat is in the veins of the pepper, so if you take that out, you're going to take all the heat out. Now I'm going to assemble the ingredients. For the stuffing, I'm using 1 package of cream cheese at room temperature. To that, I'm adding 2 tablespoons of finely minced jalapenos. Add more if you like the poppers hot, less if you don't. The poppers at Arby's don't have minced jalapenos in them. I'm adding these because my jalapenos are rather mild, so adding these is optional. Then I add 2 tablespoons of the vinegar from the canned jalapenos. You can use home canned ones, I just don't have any on hand right now. The poppers at Arby's do have this vinegar taste in the cream cheese, so don't leave this out. Mix it together thoroughly and set it aside. For the egg wash, I'm using 2 eggs and an equal amount of buttermilk. I'm sure that you could use plain milk if you like, but buttermilk is what I'm using. I mix that together thoroughly and set that aside. For the flour dredge, I'm using all-purpose flour that I added some salt to. For the breadcrumb dredge, I'm using plain breadcrumbs that I bought. I'm sure any brand will work, or even homemade ones would be good. And I added some salt to the breadcrumbs. I know that the thing today is to use panko. However, that stuff is so coarse it just tears up my gums. I far prefer the plain breadcrumbs. I'm trying out a new gadget today called a better breader. It's a plastic container with a slotted tray in the center for breading food. I found that it works well, but these poppers probably weren't the ideal thing to use for it since the cream cheese filling is so soft. I'll definitely use this breader again in the future. It's rather large. It's about the size of a loaf of bread. So here's how I made the poppers. I filled a jalapeno half with the cream cheese mixture. Then I dipped the pepper into the egg wash. Then the peppers were dredged in the flour. Back into the egg wash. Then into the breadcrumbs. I just coated the popper thoroughly at each step. Then I fried the poppers in shortening. I prefer shortening because shortening goes back to a solid as it cools and the poppers don't end up greasy. You could use something like vegetable oil if you like, but they're going to end up greasy if you do. This deep fryer is great, but you could use a frying pan if you don't have one. I bought this thing at Walmart a few years ago and it works great. The poppers fry quickly. I only fried them for about 1 minute. When the sound of the frying changes, that's when I pulled them out. When you fry these, you'll see what I mean. It's like it starts cooking into the cream cheese mixture. At that point, I pulled them up and stopped frying them. I fried these at 350 degrees. Then I spread them out on a cookie sheet that was lined with a paper towel. One batch makes about 44 jalapeno poppers, and you can make all of them for less than what you'll pay for 8 poppers at Arby's. These poppers freeze extremely well. When you want to use them, just bake them in a preheated oven at 400 degrees for 12 to 15 minutes. So that's how I make jalapeno poppers. I hope it helps.